goodbye. Hello, goodbye. Hello, goodbye. Welcome, this is my catchy intro. My name is Timothy Halloran. In these videos, we're discussing the nature of the times, the weather report for all life on Earth. We're in the first week of June 2024, meeting under a Gemini New Moon. Folks, you can support this work by donating. This is all made possible thanks to your support. Please like, subscribe, and especially I invite you to share me via word of mouth, as I believe that's what it's going to take to get me around in this day and age. Now, where we find ourselves in the greater scheme of things before we start to talk about the themes of this coming month and this next couple of weeks, I want to begin by congratulating your survival into June. Round of applause. Even last weekend, the 1st to the 2nd, we saw the moon conjoining Mars and Chiron. And this has been a wave of healing and crises that can be reflecting back to our prior solar eclipse on April 8th. That was our great Chiron eclipse. We saw the rulers of the moon's north node in Aries, Mars, joining Chiron, those same degrees that the eclipse took place a couple months ago. This is why at the beginning of April I mentioned, hey, this is going to be the astrology of this month, but we can also look at the solar eclipse April 8th as a 6-month signature. Now, where we find ourselves in time is meeting under a Gemini new moon. Next month, the sun will square the moon's nodes, which means we are nearing, about a month from now, the halfway point in between eclipse seasons. Now, what I personally and generally predicted that I'm now observing and seeing to be generally true is the first 3 months post this last solar eclipse, again, April, May, June, these months carry a tremendous theme of healing crises. I personally experienced, I feel, every single facet of this Mars Chiron, just June 1st to 2nd. I mean, there's the healing of our autonomy, there's the theme and healing of abandonment, there's the healing of our core sexuality, themes of healing masculinity, healing and addressing anger. All of these themes have been just swirling in the collective physical crises, physical bodily challenges. There's a very good chance that we're birthing June with a stark amount of exhaustion. You know, there's been so many hoops to jump through. There's been so many adjustments, and we're going to see continued adjustments, as I'm letting you know, through the month of June. But I think generally we're going to also see a settling towards the end of this month. And we're also going to see what's coming out of this healing crises as we get to summer to fall time, Northern Hemisphere. It's like, okay, why have we had to cut so many cords? Why have we had to reflect on so many past themes, taking us into childhood, taking us through our relationships? I mean, Jesus, it can be not only physically, but emotionally exhausting, right? To cut the cords, to go our own way. I don't know about y'all, but it's like, I feel like I've had to re-break up with all of my exes, in addition to the move getting here to where I am now delivering this video in front of a background of trees. And by the way, thank you so much for all the supporters, all the commenters on the last video. I cannot let you know how helpful it's been for me while I've been going through the crises and the bumpiness that I assume has also been occurring on a collective level, especially my dear sensitive souls and natural-born wounded healers. Thank you so much again for your support when I lost my phone and then had a flat tire and was just barely on the end of losing it. There's just been this little tiny glimmer of hope. And I think for many of us, that's how it's been in the midst of so much change, so much crises. I mean, also personally, it's like where there's so much death and decay, that's where we just offer it all back to God. It's just like, okay, it's a round of garbage dump, period. Now, as I mentioned at the start of this video, hello, goodbye, hello, goodbye, hello, goodbye, hello, goodbye. That's the new moon in Gemini, joined with Venus Cazimi on Venus's nodes. So this new moon is joined with Venus on the south and north node of Venus in Gemini. in addition to the north node of Uranus. Now, that's this hello goodbye. There's a necessary reflection on past relationships to see what we've learned and to see how we've developed, as well as to recognize what we value. And hopefully, Venus also has something to do with self-worth, all of this adjustment and redirection. And the other huge part of what's forcing this redirection is I'm observing a huge crisis of motivation. This is why I'm thanking you for the comments. I don't know how I would be doing this video if I didn't have some peanut gallery saying, yay, we appreciate you, because there is just too much in my personal 12th house type of life that throws constant bombardment at me. That is killing my motivation. Little gut punches of what you think you know everything, what you think you're a teacher, constantly being told I'm narcissistic because of my mannerisms and all of this. It's like, holy crap. It can be a lot sometimes, but hopefully we're not losing ourselves. We're not losing our self-worth, even in the face of hecklers or the he said, she said, or the others. Because that is the danger of this time. As much as this year can be a divine resuscitation. And if we reflect back to the beginning of January, I predicted this year as titling it, "The Year a Divine Spark Will Set Your Soul on Fire." Okay, so there's this divine resuscitation, but the being lit on fire process isn't totally easy either. You know, it's like intense death and rebirth. It's like when your arm falls asleep for 3 hours on the train ride and then blood starts to circulate back into that forgotten limb. It's not necessarily a comfortable experience at first. So that is doing the healing work of 2024, but there is always an opt-out. There's always free will and choice in life. And we can opt out by conforming to the niceness, to the pleasantries, to the how it looks this way on the surface and it looks this way for others. So let's not do the hard work or the excavation. Let's continue to cover it up and just avoid and escape. And, you know, that's the danger of this year. I'm observing souls burying themselves in falsehood, fakeness, and escapism as much as there can be this allergic reaction response that's actually forcing us to close the chapter of so many old things. For myself personally, I'm observing a heavy allergic response to white privilege, avoidance, escapism, this very particular type of consciousness, toxic positivity. And, you know, even the New Age movement, I believe, is mostly entrenched with white privilege, which means it's mostly not really spiritual, more of an antichrist religion. And it's not safe. I'm allergic to it. Like, that doesn't feel good to me. It's paradoxical that, you know, more real places where there's more tragedy and realness actually feels safer. And this, again, is just a reflection of my own personal value system and taste. But that's what we all can be reflecting on in certain ways, as this new moon in Gemini is the opportunity to form a new network. This is a very brilliant springboard into the future. And chances are all of June we're going to be spinning a bit as we're finally descending into the new and starting to discover these new relationships, these new hobbies, these new ways of earning money, these new ways of doing exchange, as all of this Venus property. You know, it is largely a discovery. As this month unfolds, there's going to be a huge key and need for experimentation. Really beautiful astrology in terms of the technological advances and, you know, foreshadowing of the future we're going to see under this new moon and through the forthcoming month of June 2024. As not only is this new moon on the north node of Uranus, we see Mercury joining Jupiter in the first degrees of Gemini, trining Pluto in the first degrees of Aquarius. So this Jupiter-Pluto trine is a massive acceleration. So, for example, we're going to see in the world of technology, we're going to see a huge spring forward of patents and inventions that's going to be foreshadowing the whole next couple decades of Pluto into Aquarius. But we're starting to get an experience of that now. We're starting to get to experiment with some of these new technologies. And this is also new conversations. This is like mind-blowing. Like, oh, wow, all of these astrologers I just thought were a bunch of bullshit artists, and then, oh my God, might astrology be real? That's the type of dimensional shift in terms of openness to discovery and new perspectives. And Gemini is going to keep introducing all of these different perspectives. It's like, hey, if you look at it this way, you got this truth. And if you look at it this way, you got this truth. And if you look at it this way, you got this truth. And that is the truth. There is no singular one size fits all. This new moon with Venus in Gemini is an opportunity for us to collaborate. Via this rediscovery of our own value system and self-worth, that also creates the meeting point where Gemini and the ruler Mercury is the telephone operator god that's forming bridges and forming these new connections and these new networks. And this is going to begin in our hearts with ourselves. Like, this is my interest point. This is what I want to bring into school for show and tell. This would be the perfect moon cycle, for example, to start your own YouTube channel. As much as it's challenging me because there's this explosion of pop astrology, that's what's going on right now. And it's a very real challenge where I'm seeing more and more astrologers who've been YouTubers for over a decade. We're being forced to conform to the clickbait formula. You know, the cover image has got to be like, and June, the most insane month of the year, no matter what period of time it is. It's like, everyone clicks on that message and everyone clicks on that title, and that's going to be the shadow side of all of this expansiveness too, is it's like, again, we have to honor ourselves. We have to honor our own self-worth. It's really challenging for myself as an example, because I don't want to do that. I don't want to create the stupid, image on the cover, but this is actual human psychology. When you see the eyebrows up, it expresses more seriousness and attention, so you click on a cover image where someone's like that, right? I mean, all of us are just learning to see these patterns in consciousness and what humanity actually is and what makes us tick, and all of this growth can be for better or for worse. When I'm speaking to the, tens of thousands that this video reaches, that's always how it is, right? But the opportunity is in the rediscovery of where our curiosity is leading us now, because there may be continued doorways leading to hallways of doorways that's unfolding through this month. That is Gemini, telephone operator god. One thing leads to the next, leads to the next, leads to the next, and then you get a multifaceted lifestyle. That's what we get to rediscover and recreate through the month of June. Now, next weekend, the 8th to the 9th, Venus squares Saturn. Then the sun squares Saturn. So this approaching weekend, there's this degree of seriousness where it's like, okay, if we really want to make money, how do we do that? And if we really want to make our dreams reality, we're probably going to have to grow up in certain ways, because there were parts to this relationship that were not real. There were parts that were real. There were parts that were deceptive. There were parts that were supportive. And we never want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? We never want to throw a soul out if we don't need to. But what we're all learning this year is there may be certain souls we need to throw out. There may be certain souls that we simply need to have a certain amount of distance from. Therefore, this new moon is also a prioritization. It's like, who is in the foremost concentric circle, who's in the next concentric circle, etc., etc. And that's how we form this lifestyle. That's how we form these new communities. That's how we form this new way of being, as we're discovering what valuable jewels and gems we have to bring into the divine show and tell. So again, it may be a YouTube channel or an Instagram. There may be a school you're going back to. And by the way, the best school is at rosalilacommunity.com. Super excited for the growth of that through the next year of Jupiter in Gemini. As a little plug, astrology is the most simple and life revolutionizing science that's out there. So you don't have to be a professional astrologer for a little bit of astrology education to thoroughly change the rest of your life. Okay, so June 8th to 9th, serious. Making our dreams real. What adjustments need to be happening? Serious conversations like, hey, that was right and that was not right. Again, there's a lot of reflection on past relationships, as much as we are all carving out a new way to relate right now. That's certainly a part of this Venus Cazimi new moon. And again, my guess is with this Mars Chiron kicking off June, so many crises of motivation. It's like burning off a layer of decay. Making all of these cuts is going to change and adjust how we're relating to the whole. I'm mentioning a crisis of YouTube, like, hey, I'm gonna have to figure something out here, how I'm speaking to my audience. This can also be, how are we relating to community? Who are our friends? Who are we talking to? Do we really have to pay someone money to be vulnerable? Or can we have a real friend that we can be open and vulnerable with? I would suggest this new moon also says something about the value of friendship and how that friendship can really be something more valuable than gold. So again, this approaching weekend, the June 8th to 9th, it's like we're discussing this. It's just like, how do we make this into something that's valuable? How do we make this into something that can reach the world? How do we make this into something that's going to make all of our needs reached, all of our dreams achievable, etc.? Okay. Now, the following weekend, 16th, 17th, Venus squares Neptune. So it's interesting because like first weekend of June, super exhausting, so many hoops to jump through. Second weekend, taking things kind of seriously, Venus square Saturn. Then third weekend, Venus square Neptune is a little bit more, okay, there's something creative flowing here and there's something to enjoy and we're kind of more drifting a bit. Now in between that, on Tuesday, June 11th, Mars is squaring Pluto again. So there's some wrapping up and settling down the first half of June, and then Mars goes into Taurus June 9th through July 20th, and that's when we're really going to start experiencing this next phase. Mars is ruling the moon's north node in Aries, so wherever Mars is, all of the astrologers that copy me, I know you can just copy me, you don't have to give me credit, it's fine. I know how the New Age movement works by now, it's fine. The ruler of the moon's north node, in any point of time, you want to track what sign that planet is. So we're talking about Mars in 2024. Significant shifts when Mars leaves his own sign of Aries, where he's been carving it out, having to be brave, having to be courageous, having to pick ourselves up from the bootstraps, get ourselves back up on our own horse, gut punch, get knocked down, get back up, gut punch, get knocked down, get back up. That's been this whole healing crises and journey of Mars over Chiron in Aries and Mars into Taurus on June 9th through July 20th. Finally, finding the new pace and settling down into form and actually finding that flow that allows the balance in the on and the off, as well as tuning into this new lifestyle and this new value system, really starting to sink into it, bring it into form, make it real, make it a part of our life. But Mars in Taurus, ruled by Venus, will have to bring us back again to our own value system. What fills us up? Our own sense of taste. What motivates us? This whole catalyst is about a reprioritization and a redirection as we are entering a thoroughly new world, a new timeline. This new moon on the north node of Uranus, trining Pluto, Jupiter, Mercury, trining Pluto in early degrees of Aquarius is like Willy Wonka's great glass elevator, shattering a glass roof. April, May, June. And then this elevator breaks this ceiling, maybe goes into outer space where the whole laws of the gravity completely changes. And new dimensional possibilities are brought in. This is not only an elevator that goes up and down like we knew in the old timeline. This is a great glass elevator that can go diagonal-wise or turn-wise or whatever it may be. And again, just watch the technology that's going to be rolling out this month of June 2024, because it's probably going to even have some of that metaphor. Like we're introducing new dimensions, we're introducing new possibilities, and now we have even more control, we have new perspectives. The first time we sent humans to the moon was the first time we sent photos of the Earth back to Earth. So again, there's this massive amount of redirection due to this healing crises. That's to bring us back online. What is your lifeline? We're going to be settling down into that throughout the month of June, and I encourage the show and tell. I encourage you to connect, share, discover the others that will come out of your own curiosity, your own interests, and then we can really start to get the ball moving. I think this can be an enormously creative, exciting, and innovative month to come. We are tying up the loose ends of Mars Chiron this month. the healing of masculinity. Certainly we're seeing that out in the collective with P. Diddy and what's going on in the world of relationships, the health crises. The challenge of will to live is a very real crisis of the day. So we're seeing that reflected in the whole collective right now, but it's bringing us necessary information to make these necessary adjustments. How do we heal? What Mars essentially is, which is core masculinity. And Mars is Pan. Mars has horns and is hairy and, has a dominating, competitive, reactive nature. And we all have to learn to embrace that in the healthy, non-P. Diddy type of way. And you know what? That's the healing of our whole collective. Because looking at that example even just a couple decades ago, look at the culture, look at the world, look what people were getting away with. Of course, that's still going to be in the collective. Of course, there's loose ends to wrap up around for all of us. Some of us are healing anger by learning to control it and learn to communicate what's actually going on, because the reactivity is not the problem, it's the expression or the communication of it. This is same exact truth for those who have a hard time expressing their anger. You can have a hard time expressing anger because you're overreactive or underreactive. If you came from a family that never expressed any open emotion, you might be more naturally reactive. If you came from a family that was constantly fighting, you may have a fear or a resistance to getting angry yourself. And that anger in its root is not wrong, but we associate the trauma of that anger as we should never get angry or else we're going to hurt somebody else the way that we've been hurt ourselves. Anger is like sexuality. It's been very, very wounded over thousands of years of patriarchy. Very suppressed, very distorted, very messed up in the whole world, and chances are ourself, because this is what we're healing out of the collective. But is sexuality inherently wrong? No, it's natural. So there is a natural Pan. There's a natural masculinity. There's a natural femininity. There's a natural other billion genders that we're all healing association with. I'm reflecting on this in my own personal journey, because it's like I was a very sensitive man, and so I got put onto me, oh, well, he must be gay, but not in a supportive way, in a way that was like, oh, you have to be masculine. But I wasn't even gay. I was just sensitive, and people have projected onto me my entire life. Why? Because the masculine's fucked up, and we don't even know what femininity is. And this is just from the side of a cis male gender. There is going to be every other experience that we're taking a look at now. Might we be afraid of masculinity at our core because there's been so many abusers in the past? Can we even truly blame ourselves or others for this or this reactivity? This again is the collective soup, as I've been saying, this whole Mars Chiron period beginning at the start of April. This is going to require our stepping on each other's toes, getting a bit reactive, and then coming full circle. Okay, and the goal of this is to create respectful interactions. The goal of this is a Mars truth, is to create healthy protection. We must protect ourselves. We must have the adequate suit of armor, which I'm letting you know is the same as the concentric circles of relationships. We don't let everybody in. You cannot let everybody in. If I have one truth to let you know, besides don't sacrifice too much, don't let everybody in. Because I'm Mr. Honesty, Mr. Truth Teller, Mr. Vulnerable, and I've gotten chewed the fuck out to let you know this truth. You cannot let everybody in. You've got to, evaluate people to know if they're safe to sit beside you. And if it's only going to be judgments, if it's only going to be projections, that's going to cause you to lose your own self-worth, or your own individuality, or your own autonomy. So the concentric circles is the same and non-different from the suit of armor, from the protection, and we've all had to learn how to create this healthy shell for ourselves. This is not the antithesis of love. This is how we love healthily. A trauma bond relationship, a codependent relationship is when one person swallows the other, or there's constant patterns of abuse. We can't sit down beside each other. We cannot really acknowledge or respect each other for who we are. So respect yourself first. Set up your life, set up your value system, set pace towards your interests where the curiosity is leading you today, and allow for that unfolding to lead you into the healthy, necessary connections, collaborations, showing and telling that is to come, June 2024. Again, my name is Timothy Haller, and I am a Gemini myself, wrapping up my 33rd year. I cannot wait. It seems like it's been all survival and a constant fight for every tiny thing in my life up until now, and fingers crossed, that story and pattern is changing. I cannot wait, because there is so much to come once I have the smallest amount of stability in my personal life. And for those who want to show support, again, thank you. Your comments are helpful, your donations are supportive, your sharing with friends is deeply supportive. I will also be meeting with members of my Q&A circle on June 15th. If you join the astrology school at rosalilacommunity.com, that includes the monthly Q&A. And we have an opportunity to test drive evolutionary astrology. It's an educational resource. It's an opportunity to see how real astrology is. We get an idea of the collective themes, as we're also simultaneously a support group for one another. And we get to offer, you have the opportunity to share your birth chart and ask a specific question about your life or your experience. And then I give a 5 to 10 minute mini reading per each and every individual as a group. All right. Wishing you the best through this most exciting, groundbreaking, and liberating month of June. I will catch you mid-month, and as always, wishing you the very best. Please do take care.